When single mother Emma Rodriguez sends a desperate text to her daughter's father, begging for help with medical bills, she never expects a response. But a phone system glitch sends her message to Daniel Cross, a mysterious tech billionaire with a dark past who's about to change her life forever. What starts as a simple wrong number becomes a dangerous game of survival. When Emma and her sick daughter are thrust into a deadly conspiracy involving government corruption, human trafficking, and powerful enemies who will kill to keep their secrets buried. Asterisk the fluorescent lights of the emergency clinic cast sickly shadows across Dr. Patricia Santos's weathered face as she delivered the news that would change everything. Emma Rodriguez clutched her 3-year-old daughter Sophia closer, feeling the child's fever finally breaking after hours of terror. "The infection is clearing," Dr. Santos said, her voice gentle but tired. "But I need to ask something difficult. The man who paid for this treatment tonight, do you know him well?" Emma's stomach dropped. The stranger who had helped them through that desperate text message had seemed like an angel in the darkness. Now the doctor's concerned expression suggested something far more complicated. "I don't know him at all." "Why?" Dr. Santos glanced toward the reception area where a tall figure in an expensive coat waited in the shadows. "'Cause Daniel Cross doesn't typically involve himself in random acts of charity, and when he does, there's usually a reason." The name hit Emma like ice water. Daniel Cross, the tech billionaire whose face graced magazine covers and whose company had been in the news for months due to a massive lawsuit. The man who had just saved her daughter's life was one of the most powerful and controversial figures in the city. Through the glass partition, Emma watched him pace near the exit, his phone pressed to his ear in what appeared to be a heated conversation. Even from a distance, she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his free hand clenched and unclenched. This wasn't the calm, controlled businessman from the magazines. This was someone fighting his own demons. "I need to thank him," Emma said, though something in her chest warned against it. "Be careful," Dr. Santos whispered. "Men like that don't give without expecting something in return." Emma gathered Sophia, who had finally fallen into peaceful sleep, and walked toward the reception area. Her footsteps echoed against the polished floor, each step feeling like a march toward an unknown fate. When Daniel turned to face her, she nearly gasped. The photographs hadn't captured the jagged scar running from his left temple to his jaw, or the haunted look in his dark eyes. This was a man who had survived something terrible, and the experience had left marks deeper than the physical ones. "Your daughter looks better," he said, his voice rougher than she had expected. "Okay." Up close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his features, as if he hadn't slept properly in months. "Thanks to you." Emma shifted Sophia's weight, acutely aware of her own appearance after the nightmarish evening. Her clothes were wrinkled, her hair unkempt, but Daniel's gaze held no judgment. Instead, she saw something that looked almost like recognition. "You shouldn't have to choose between your child's health and keeping a roof over her head," he said quietly. "Oh, I know what that feels like." There was something in his tone that made Emma study his face more carefully. Behind the expensive clothes, in commanding presence, she glimpsed the ghost of a frightened child who had once faced similar, impossible choices. "I don't understand why you helped us," she admitted. "Dr. Santos seems to think you have ulterior motives." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Maybe I do. Maybe I saw a mother fighting for her child and remembered what it felt like to watch my own mother break herself trying to keep us afloat. Or maybe I'm exactly the predator everyone thinks I am, and this is how I lure vulnerable women into my web." His honesty was brutal and unexpected. Emma found herself taking a step closer instead of backing away. "Which one is it?" "I don't know yet." The admission seemed to cost him something, but I'd like to find out. Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced down and felt the blood drain from her face. It was from Jake Morrison, Sophia's father, the man she had originally intended to contact for help. "Got your message. Don't ever contact me again. I told you 3 years ago I wanted nothing to do with this mistake. Find someone else to be your sukkah." The cruelty of the words coming at this moment of vulnerability nearly brought Emma to her knees. Daniel must have seen something in her expression because his entire demeanor shifted. "What is it?" Emma showed him the message, too exhausted to maintain her pride. Daniel read it, and for a moment, something dangerous flickered across his features. Is this the man you thought you were texting tonight? Sophia's father? He walked out when I was pregnant. I swore I'd never ask him for anything, but when she was burning up with fever, Emma's voice broke. I guess I was right to never expect anything from him. Daniel was quiet for a long moment, studying her face with an intensity that made her feel exposed. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. There's something I need to tell you about that message you sent tonight. Something that's going to complicate everything between us. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? Daniel pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. The number displayed was identical to the one she had just received Jake's cruel response from. That's impossible, Emma whispered. I sent the message to Jake's number. You did? Daniel confirmed. But somehow I received it instead, and now he's getting messages meant for me. The implications hit Emma like a physical blow. Somehow their numbers had been switched or crossed in the system. The desperate plea she had sent to Jake had gone to Daniel instead. And now Jake had received whatever messages Daniel had sent to someone else that night. What were you texting about when my message came through? Emma asked, though she dreaded the answer. Daniel's expression darkened. I was arranging to have someone eliminated from a business deal, permanently. The words hung between them like a loaded weapon. Emma realized she was standing in an emergency clinic at midnight, holding her sick child, talking to a man who might be far more dangerous than she had imagined. But instead of fear, she felt a strange pull toward the darkness she sensed in him. Are you threatening me? She asked quietly. No. Daniel's response was immediate and fierce. But someone else might think I am. And if Jake received that message, thinking it came from you, he pulled out his phone and started dialing. We need to get you and Sophia somewhere safe. Now. Before Emma could ask what he meant, the clinic's lights suddenly went out, plunging them into darkness. In the distance, she could hear the sound of car doors slamming and footsteps approaching the building. Daniel's hand found hers in the darkness, his grip strong and urgent. Whatever happens next, he whispered, don't let go. The emergency exits alarm shrieked through the darkness as Daniel pulled Emma and Sophia through the clinic's back corridors. His hand remained locked around Emma's wrist, guiding her past overturned equipment and scattered medical supplies. Behind them, voices shouted orders in the reception area, professional and cold. Stay low, Daniel whispered, his breath warm against her ear. They crouched behind a supply cart as flashlight beams swept the hallway. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs so hard she was certain their pursuers would hear it. Sophia stirred. In her arms, and Emma pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead, silently praying the child wouldn't wake. The fever had broken, but Sophia was still weak, still vulnerable. Whatever danger they were running from, her daughter was an innocent caught in the crossfire. Who are those people? Emma breathed. Daniel's profile was sharp in the scattered. Emergency lighting. Business associates who don't appreciate crossed wires in communication. The clinical way he said it made Emma's blood chill. These weren't random criminals or mistaken identity cases. These were people from Daniel's world, and they were here because of the message mix-up that had brought them together. Radio crackled. Nearby, building secured, no sign of Cross or the woman. Emma felt Daniel tense beside her. His free hand moved to his jacket, and she caught a glimpse of something metallic hidden beneath the expensive fabric. The realization that he was armed should have terrified her, but instead, it made her feel safer. Whatever moral compromises this man had made, he was choosing to protect her and Sophia. There's a service tunnel that leads to the parking garage. Daniel murmured, My car is there. Can you run? Emma nodded, adjusting her grip on Sophia. Daniel led them through a maze of basement corridors that seemed to exist in perpetual twilight. The walls were lined with pipes and electrical conduits that hummed with hidden energy. It felt like descending into the city's mechanical heart. They reached a heavy metal door marked Authorized Personnel Only. Daniel produced a keycard from his wallet and swiped it. The lock disengaged with a soft click. How do you have access to this? Emma asked. Crosstech designed the security system for this entire medical complex 3 years ago. Daniel's smile was grim. I know every entrance, exit, and blind spot in the building. The revelation that he had planned for this possibility, that he had contingencies in place for running from his own associates, painted a picture of a man living on the edge of violence. Yet when he looked at Sophia sleeping in Emma's arms, his expression softened with something that looked almost like grief. They emerged into the underground parking garage, where the air tasted of exhaust and dampness. Black sedan that looked armored. As they approached it, Emma caught sight of their reflection in the tinted windows and nearly gasped. They looked like a family running from danger together. Daniel's protective stance, the way he kept himself between Emma and any potential threat, the gentle way he opened the car door for her. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine what it would feel like to have someone who would fight the world to keep her and Sophia safe. "Where are we going?" she asked, as Daniel started the engine. "Somewhere they won't think to look." He pulled out of the garage, his eyes constantly checking the mirrors. "My mother's house." The admission surprised her. In all the magazine profiles, in business articles, Daniel Cross was portrayed as a man who had emerged from nowhere, self-made and solitary. The fact that he still had a mother, still maintained that connection, revealed another layer to his carefully constructed persona. They drove through the city's sleeping streets, past shuttered storefronts and flickering streetlights. Emma found herself studying Daniel's profile in the dashboard glow. The scar on his face caught the light, and she wondered what violence had put it there. More importantly, she wondered if he had been the victim or the perpetrator. "We're staring," he said, without taking his eyes off the road. "I'm trying to figure out if I should be afraid of you." Daniel was quiet for several blocks. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight that made Emma's chest tighten. "My father used to beat my mother unconscious and then disappear for weeks at a time. When I was 12, he came home drunk and started in on her again. I put a kitchen knife between his ribs." Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "He lived, but he never came back. My mother spent the next 6 years telling me I was just like him, that violence was in my blood, that I would destroy everything." I touched. The confession hung between them like a loaded confession. Emma understood now why he had helped them, why a desperate mother's plea had reached him in the middle of the night. He had been that terrified child once, watching his mother suffer and feeling powerless to stop it. "Do you think she was right?" Emma asked quietly. "I spent 20 years proving her right." Daniel turned onto a tree-lined street where modest houses sat behind chain-link fences. "Everything I've built, every success I've achieved, it's all been paid for with other people's blood. I tell myself it's business, that it's necessary, but the truth is simpler than that." He pulled into the driveway of a small house with a carefully tended garden. Light glowed warm and yellow behind thin curtains. "The truth is what?" Daniel turned off the engine and looked at her directly for the first time since they had left the clinic. His eyes held a vulnerability that made her chest ache. "The truth is, I'm exactly the monster she said I was. But when I got your message tonight, when I heard a mother begging for help to save her child..." He paused, his voice rough with emotion. "For the first time in 20 years, I remembered what it felt like to be human." Before Emma could respond, the front door of the house opened, and a woman emerged onto the porch. She was small and delicate, with graying hair pulled back severely, and eyes that held the same haunted quality as her son's. When she saw Daniel getting out of the car, her expression shifted through surprise, wariness, and something that might have been hope. "Daniel?" Her voice carried across the small yard. "What are you doing here?" Daniel helped Emma out of the car, his hand gentle on her elbow as she maneuvered with sleeping Sophia in her arms. "Mom, I need your help. These people are in danger because of me." Maria Cross studied Emma and Sophia with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Emma felt exposed under that gaze, aware of her disheveled appearance and the strangeness of the situation. But when Maria's eyes settled on Sophia's peaceful face, her expression softened. "Bring them inside," she said simply. "We'll figure out the rest later." As they walked toward the house, Emma caught sight of movement in the shadows across the street. A figure stood beneath a broken streetlight, too distant to make out clearly, but close enough to feel threatening. When she blinked and looked again, the figure was gone. "Daniel," she whispered, but he had already seen it too. His hand moved to the weapon beneath his jacket as he ushered them quickly toward the front door. But just as they reached the porch, Emma's phone buzzed with another message. This one wasn't from Jake. It was from an unknown number, and the words made her blood freeze. "We know where you are. The child doesn't have to get hurt. Just give us Cross and walk away." Daniel read the message over her shoulder, and Emma felt him go completely still beside her. When he looked up at his mother, who was holding the door open for them, his face had transformed into something cold and calculating. "Mom," he said quietly, "how did you know we were coming?" Maria Cross froze in the doorway, her weathered hand still gripping the doorframe. The warm light from inside cast harsh shadows across her face, revealing every line and hollow that years of hardship had carved there. For a moment, mother and son stared at each other across an abyss of unspoken accusations. "I don't know what you mean," Maria said, but her voice lacked conviction. Daniel stepped closer to his mother, his movement predatory and controlled. Emma instinctively tightened her hold on Sophia, sensing the shift in atmosphere like an animal scenting a storm. "I never told you I was coming," Daniel said quietly. "I never called, never sent word. But you were awake, dressed, waiting. The porch light was on, and you opened the door before I could knock." Maria's eyes darted past her son to Emma, and in that glance, Emma saw something that made her stomach clench with dread. It was the look of someone who had already decided which lives were expendable. "They told me you'd bring a woman and child," Maria whispered. "They said if I helped them, they'd leave you alive. They promised me, Daniel. They promised they wouldn't kill you." The betrayal hit Daniel like a physical blow. Emma watched his face transform, watched 20 years of carefully constructed emotional walls crumble in an instant. The pain in his eyes was so raw, so complete, that she had to look away. "How much did they pay you?" His voice was barely audible. "It wasn't about money." Maria's voice broke. "They showed me pictures, Daniel. Pictures of what you've become, what you've done. That family in Chicago, the whistleblower in Seattle, the journalist who was asking too many questions about the Pentagon contracts. They showed me everything." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. The man who had saved her daughter, who had risked his own life to protect them, was a killer. Not just a businessman who operated in moral gray areas, but someone who eliminated problems with lethal precision. "So you decided to eliminate me instead?" Daniel said. "Your own son?" "I decided to save what was left of your soul." Maria stepped back into the house, and Emma could see armed figures moving in the shadows behind her. "If you surrender now, if you face justice for what you've done, maybe there's still hope for redemption." Daniel laughed, but the sound was hollow and bitter. "Redemption? You think these people care about justice? They want me dead because I have information that could bring down half the government contractors in Washington? This isn't about morality. Mom, it's about covering up war crimes." The front windows of the house suddenly blazed with red laser dots as sniper sights found their targets. Emma counted at least 6 beams converging on Daniel's chest and head. Sophia stirred in her arms, sensing the tension even in sleep. "They said the woman and child could go free," Maria said desperately. "They just want you, Daniel. Please, don't make this harder than it has to be." Emma found her voice, though it came out as a harsh whisper. "What about the messages? What about Jake receiving something that made these people think I was involved in your business?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "The message I was sending when yours came through wasn't about eliminating a business rival. It was about exposing a human trafficking ring that my company accidentally helped fund through a series of shell corporations." Jake received detailed information about government officials, military contractors, and businessmen who have been trading in children for years. The revelation hit Emma like ice water. Jake Morrison, Sophia's cowardly father, now possessed information that could destroy dozens of powerful people. And those people thought the information had come from her. "They'll never let us go," Emma realized. "Jake will think I sent him evidence of government corruption. These people will think I'm your partner. Sophia and I are witnesses to something we don't even understand." One of the armed figures emerged from the house, a woman in tactical gear with cold eyes and a professional bearing. Emma recognized the type from news footage of international incidents. Someone who made people disappear without leaving evidence. "Mr. Cross," the woman called out. My name is Agent Sarah Chen. I represent certain interested parties who would like to discuss your recent data acquisition activities. If you come with us quietly, we can guarantee safe passage for the civilians. Daniel's hand moved toward his concealed weapon, but 6 red dots immediately tracked to his skull. He froze, understanding that any sudden movement would result in his immediate death. What data acquisition? Emma asked, though she was beginning to piece together a horrifying picture. 3 days ago, someone hacked into classified Pentagon servers and downloaded files related to off-books military contracts. Agent Chen explained, her weapon trained on Daniel's center mass. The hack was traced to Crosstech servers. We have reason to believe Mr. Cross was planning to sell that information to foreign governments. I wasn't planning to sell it, Daniel said. I was planning to release it. Those contracts detail weapons sales to terrorist organizations, human trafficking operations disguised as refugee assistance, and the systematic murder of anyone who tried to expose the truth. Emma felt sick. She was holding her daughter while standing in the crossfire of a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of government. Daniel wasn't just a killer. He was a whistleblower who had discovered something so damaging that powerful people were willing to commit murder to bury it. The download was incomplete, Agent Chen continued. We need to know what files you obtained and where you've stored them. Cooperate, and this ends quietly. Refuse, and we'll take the information we need from your corpse. Daniel looked at Emma, and she saw him making a calculation that made her heart race. There was something in his expression that spoke of desperate measures and terrible choices. The files aren't stored digitally, he said slowly. Printed everything and hid hard copies in multiple locations. Kill me, and that information goes public automatically. It was a bluff. Emma could see it in the slight tension around his eyes, the way his breathing had quickened. But Agent Chen couldn't be certain, and uncertainty was the only leverage they had. Where are the files? Chen demanded. Daniel smiled, and for the first time since Emma had met him, he looked truly dangerous. That depends. Are you going to? Honor your promise to let the woman and child go. Of course. You won't mind if I call my associate to confirm the dead man's switch is still active. Daniel slowly reached for his phone. If I don't check in every 12 hours, copies of everything go to the Washington Post, the New York Times, and WikiLeaks simultaneously. Emma realized what Daniel was doing. He was buying them time, creating a scenario where their captors couldn't simply execute them and walk away. But she also understood that this was a delaying tactic, not a solution. Eventually, these people would find a way to neutralize the threat he represented. As Daniel raised his phone to his ear, Emma made a decision that surprised even her. She stepped closer to him, close enough that the sniper sights would have difficulty targeting him. Without risking her and Sophia, if you're going to shoot him, she said to Agent Chen, you'll have to go through us first. Daniel stared at her in amazement. Emma, what are you doing? Something stupid, she admitted. But I've spent 3 years watching Sophia's father run away from responsibility. I'm not going to watch another man sacrifice himself alone. Agent Chen's expression darkened. Ma'am, you need to step away from the target. No, Emma's voice grew stronger, because I just realized something important. You said Jake received the message Daniel was trying to send. So that means Jake Morrison now has copies of everything you're trying to suppress. And Jake is exactly the kind of self-serving coward who would try to auction classified information to the highest bidder. The color drained from Agent Chen's face as the implications sank in. If Jake had the files and didn't understand their significance, he might do something unpredictable with them. He might try to sell them, or post them online, or use them to blackmail government officials. Daniel's phone suddenly rang in his hand. He looked at the caller ID, and his face went pale. It's Jake Morrison, he said. I think we're about to find out exactly how much trouble we're all in. Daniel answered the phone with 6 rifles trained on his head, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. Agent Chen gestured for silence, her tactical team adjusting positions to hear the conversation. Jake Morrison, Daniel said. Into the phone. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Jake's voice came through the speaker, loud enough for everyone to hear. He sounded drunk, reckless, and completely unaware of the life-and-death situation he had stumbled into. "You bet I do, asshole. Your little girlfriend Emma sent me some very interesting bedtime reading. Government contracts, weapons deals, human trafficking operations. Very fascinating stuff for a single mom who works at a diner." Emma felt her world tilt. Jake thought the classified files had come from her, which meant he believed she was involved in something that could destroy governments. The cruel irony wasn't lost on her. The man who had abandoned her and Sophia now held their lives in his hands. "Jake," Emma called out, stepping closer to the phone. "Listen to me very carefully. You're in serious danger. So those files aren't for me, and they're not what you think they are. Emma." Jake's voice shifted, becoming more focused. "What the hell is going on?" "Some government suits showed up at my apartment an hour ago, asking about encrypted files. I barely got out through the fire escape." Agent Chen's radio crackled to life. "Team 2 reports the secondary target has escaped custody. Morrison is in the wind with unknown materials." Emma watched Daniel's face as he processed this information. Jake Morrison, the coward who had run from fatherhood, was now running from federal agents with evidence that could topple administrations. The cosmic justice of it would have been amusing if their lives weren't hanging in the balance. "Jake, where are you now?" Daniel asked. "Nice try, but I'm not telling you anything until I understand what's happening." "Emma, are you working with this guy? Are you some kind of government spy?" The question was so absurd that Emma almost laughed. "I'm a waitress, Jake. I work double shifts to pay rent on a studio apartment. The only thing I'm spying on is whether customers are going to tip. Then explain why you sent me classified Pentagon files at midnight." Daniel stepped closer to the phone. "She didn't send you anything. There was a system error that crossed our communication lines. The files you received were meant for my secure contact, and the message she sent you came to me instead." "Impossible. Check your phone records. Look at the metadata on the files. You'll see they originated from a secure government server, not from Emma's phone." There was silence on the line, as Jake presumably checked his phone. When he spoke again, his voice had lost some of its bravado. "Holy shit, these files are real, aren't they? This is actual classified material." Agent Chen made a cutting gesture across her throat, but Daniel ignored her. "Jake, you need to understand something. The people who created those files have killed to keep them secret. They've murdered journalists, whistleblowers, and entire families to protect what's in those documents. If they find you, they won't just kill you. They'll torture you first to make sure you haven't shared the information with anyone else." Emma could hear Jake's breathing quicken through the phone. "What do you want me to do? Bring the files to the address I'm going to give you. Come alone. Don't contact anyone else, and don't try to copy or share the information. Your life and Emma's life depend on it." Agent Chen was shaking her head vigorously, but Daniel continued giving Jake the address of his mother's house. Emma realized he was orchestrating something, bringing all the players together in one place for a final confrontation. "Daniel," Maria called out from the doorway. "Don't do this. Let them have what they want, please." "What they want is everyone." "Who's seen those files dead?" Daniel replied, without taking his eyes off Agent Chen. "Including you, Mom. You think they're going to let you live after you've helped them capture me? You're a witness to a government assassination. That makes you a liability." The truth of his words hit Maria like a physical blow. She looked at Agent Chen with dawning horror, finally understanding that her cooperation had signed her own death warrant. "He's right," Chen said matter-of-factly. "This operation requires total information control. There can't be any loose ends." One of Chen's team members raised his weapon toward Maria, but Daniel moved faster than Emma would have thought possible. He threw himself between the gunman and his mother, the bullet meant for Maria catching him in the shoulder instead. Emma screamed as Daniel fell, blood spreading across his expensive shirt. Sophia woke in her arms, crying at the sudden noise and chaos. But Daniel wasn't finished fighting. From his position on the ground, he pulled out his concealed weapon and fired twice. The gunman who had shot him dropped, and another team member dove for cover behind a car. In the confusion, Maria ran back into the house and locked the door. "Enough!" Agent Chen shouted. "Stand down! We need him alive until we know where the files are stored." Daniel struggled to his feet, his left arm hanging useless at his side. Blood was soaking through his shirt, but his eyes were sharp and focused. Emma moved to support him, and he leaned against her heavily. "The files are in a safety deposit box at First National Bank," he said through gritted teeth. "Box 1247. The key is hidden in my office safe. The combination is Sophia's birthday." Emma stared at him in shock. He had used her daughter's birthday as the combination to his safe, creating a connection between them that she hadn't known existed. It was a gesture of trust and intimacy that made her chest tighten with emotion she didn't want to examine. "How do you know Sophia's birthday?" she whispered. "I've known since the night you texted me. I had my people run a background check on you to make sure you weren't setting me up." "I know everything, Emma. Your work schedule, your favorite coffee, shop, the fact that you sing to Sophia every night before bed. I know you paint portraits of her when you think no one is watching, and that you sell them online to buy groceries." The invasion of privacy should have angered her, but instead Emma felt something deeper and more complex. Daniel had been watching over them, learning about their lives, protecting them from a distance. It was possessive and controlling, but it was also the most romantic thing anyone had ever done for her. A car pulled up to the curb, and Jake Morrison got out. He looked exactly as Emma remembered him, handsome in a shallow way, with the kind of easy charm that had once made her believe he might stay. He was carrying a leather briefcase and looking around nervously.
"Oh, well,"
Agent Chen said, checking her weapon. "It looks like we have all our players in position. Mr. Morrison, please join us. We have some matters to discuss." Jake approached the group warily, his eyes taking in the armed agents, the blood on Daniel's shirt, and Emma holding Sophia protectively. "What the hell is happening here? Your ex-girlfriend accidentally became involved in a matter of national security," Chen explained, "and now we need to clean up the mess." Jake looked at Emma with something that might have been concern. "You okay?" It was the first time in 3 years that he had asked about her well-being, and Emma found she didn't care about his answer anymore. "I'm fine, Jake. Better than fine, actually." "Give me the briefcase," Chen ordered. Jake hesitated, looking between the agents and Daniel. "What happens to Emma and the kid if I hand this over?" "That depends on how cooperative everyone chooses to be." Daniel raised his good arm, his weapon still in his hand despite his injury. "Here's what's going to happen. Jake is going to get back in his car and drive to the FBI field office downtown. He's going to turn over those files to Special Agent Rebecca Martinez, who has been investigating this conspiracy for 2 years. Emma and Sophia are going to go with him." "And what about you?" Emma asked, though she dreaded the answer. Daniel's smile was sad and final. "I'm going to buy you time to get away." Emma realized he was planning to sacrifice himself to save them. The man who had been branded a killer, who had lived his entire adult life in moral darkness, was choosing to die, so that she and Sophia could live. It was the most heroic thing she had ever witnessed, and she couldn't let it happen. "No," she said firmly. "We all go together, or none of us go at all." Before anyone could stop her, Emma pulled out her phone and hit the emergency broadcast button on her social media account. She had only a few hundred followers, but it was enough. "My name is Emma Rodriguez," she said into the phone's camera. "I'm standing outside 428 Maple Street with my 3-year-old daughter. Federal agents are threatening to kill us to cover up government war crimes." Agent Chen lunged for the phone, but it was too late. The live stream was already broadcasting. 2 Emma's followers and several people had started sharing it. Within seconds, the video was spreading across multiple platforms. "You stupid woman," Chen snarled. "You have no idea what you've just done. I've made sure you can't kill us quietly." Emma replied. Now the whole world is watching. The livestream counter climbed past 10,000 viewers as news outlets began picking up Emma's broadcast. Agent Chen watched her operation dissolve in real time, her face a mask of cold fury. The tactical advantage of secrecy was gone, replaced by the harsh scrutiny of public attention. "Cut the feed," Chen ordered one of her remaining team members. "Can't," he replied, studying his electronic warfare equipment. "She's using a decentralized streaming protocol. Even if we jam her phone, the video is already mirrored across 17 different platforms." Emma kept the camera rolling, narrating what she could see while trying to shield Sophia from the worst of it. "The agents are wearing military gear but no identifying badges. They claim to represent the government, but they're threatening to kill civilians to cover up classified information about human trafficking and weapons deals. Daniel watched the viewer count rise and felt something shift in the night air. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Local news vans would be next, followed by federal investigators who weren't part of Chen's conspiracy. Operation was blown, and everyone knew it. 27,000 viewers and climbing, Jake reported, staring at his own phone in amazement. Emma, you're trending on 3 platforms. Agent Chen's radio crackled with urgent messages from her handlers. Emma couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. Abort, extract, disappear. The kind of people who orchestrated shadow operations didn't survive in daylight. New plan, Chen announced to her team. We eliminate all witnesses and blame it on a terrorist attack. Foreign operatives, domestic extremists, whatever sells the story. With 30,000 people watching, Daniel asked, pressing his good hand against his bleeding shoulder. You'll start a revolution? Better than a congressional investigation. Emma realized with crystal clarity that Chen was right. These people would rather create a national incident than allow the truth to emerge. They were past the point of rational calculation, operating on pure desperation. But Daniel had one more card to play. Chen, he called out, his voice carrying despite his injuries. I lied about the safety deposit box. Files aren't at First National Bank. Chen spun toward him, her weapon raised. Where are they? They're already public. I uploaded everything to a dozen news organizations with a time-delayed release. The only thing keeping them from publishing is a dead man's switch that requires my biometric confirmation every 6 hours. Emma saw the lie in his eyes, but Chen couldn't be certain. The agent was trapped between the possibility that Daniel was bluffing and the catastrophic consequences if he wasn't. You're lying, maybe, but can you afford to be wrong? The sirens? We're getting closer. Red and blue lights flashed at the end of the street as police cars rounded the corner. Chen's team was running out of time to clean up their mess. Mom, Daniel called toward the house. Are you hurt? Maria's voice came. Through the locked door, shaky, but alive. I'm okay, Daniel. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I know, Mom. I forgive you. The simple exchange broke something in Emma's chest. Despite everything his mother had done, despite the betrayal that had nearly gotten them all killed, Daniel chose forgiveness over revenge. It was the kind of grace she had never expected from a man she had been told was a monster. Jake Morrison stepped forward, still clutching the briefcase containing the classified files. What do you want me to do with these? Emma looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in 3 years. The man who had run from fatherhood was asking how he could help save his daughter. It wasn't redemption, but it was a start. Give them to the FBI, she said. Not to Chen or anyone connected to her operation. Find Agent Rebecca Martinez and tell her everything. I can't drive anywhere with that shoulder wound, Daniel said, nodding toward Jake. You'll have to take Emma and Sophia. I'm not leaving you, Emma said firmly. Yes, you are. Sophia needs her mother more than I need a witness to my death. The matter-of-fact way he said it made Emma want to scream. You're not going to die. We're all going to get out of this together. Daniel smiled, and for the first time since she had met him, it reached his eyes. Emma, I've been dead for 20 years. You brought me back to life for one night. That's more than I deserved. The police car screeched to a halt at the end of the driveway. Officers emerged with weapons drawn, but they were clearly confused by the scene. Agent Chen and her team looked like federal agents, but Emma's livestream had painted them as the criminals. This is Sergeant Williams, Metro Police. A voice called through a bullhorn. Everyone, lower your weapons and identify yourselves. Chen hesitated, caught between her mission and the reality of police intervention. Her team looked to her for orders, but she had none to give. The operation was beyond salvage. In that moment of uncertainty, Daniel made his choice. He dropped his weapon and walked toward the police cars, his hands raised despite his injured shoulder. My name is Daniel Cross. I'm the CEO of Crosstech Industries, and I have information about government corruption that I need to share with federal investigators. Daniel, no? Emma called after him, but Jake caught her arm. Let him go, Jake said quietly. He's buying us time to get away. Emma watched Daniel surrender himself to the police, watched them handcuff him and place him in the back of a patrol car. Agent Chen and her team were also being detained, the authority questioned in the face of Emma's viral video and Daniel's public surrender. As the police cars drove away, Emma felt something shift inside her chest. The man who had saved her daughter, who had risked everything to protect them, was gone. But the impact he had made on her life would remain forever. Emma, Jake said hesitantly, I know I don't have the right to ask, but can I drive you and Sophia somewhere safe? Emma looked at the man who had abandoned them, who had rejected their daughter before she was even born. 3 years ago, his offer would have meant everything to her. No, it felt like an echo of a life she had outgrown. You can drive us to the FBI office, she said. After that, I don't know. I understand. I just want to help, if you'll let me. Yeah. Emma shifted Sophia. In her arms, her daughter finally sleeping peacefully despite the chaos around them. The fever was gone, the immediate danger had passed, and they were alive. It wasn't the ending she had hoped for, but it was enough. 6 months later, Emma stood in the visitor's room of the Federal Correctional Facility where Daniel was being held pending trial. He looked thinner, older, but his eyes held a peace she had never seen before. How's Sophia? He asked. His first question, as always. She's good. She started preschool last week. She drew you a picture. Emma slid the crayon drawing across the table. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. Daniel studied the drawing with the intensity of an art critic examining a masterpiece. She's talented. Like her mother. The FBI says you're going to testify against the people who were using your company for their operations. Agent Martinez thinks you might get a reduced sentence. Maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is that the truth comes out. Emma reached across the table and took his hand. Jake's been visiting Sophia regularly. He's trying to be a father to her. Daniel's expression didn't change, but Emma felt. His hand tightened slightly around hers. That's good. She deserves to have both parents who care about her. He's not you, Emma said quietly. No, he's better. He's not a killer. Emma leaned forward, her voice fierce with conviction. You saved my daughter's life. You saved my life. You sacrificed everything to expose people who were trading in human misery. That's not the resume of a killer, Daniel. It's the resume of a hero. Daniel was quiet for a long moment, studying their joined hands. When he looked up, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. I love you, he said simply. I know I have. No right to say it, no future to offer you, but I needed you to know. Emma felt her own eyes fill with tears. I love you too. When you get out of here, whenever that is, we'll be waiting. Emma, you can't put your life on hold for me. Sophia needs stability, needs a normal family. Sophia needs people who will fight for her, who will never abandon her, who will choose love over fear every single time. Emma squeezed his hand. That's what you taught me. That's what you gave us. As visiting hours ended and Emma prepared to leave, Daniel called her name one last time. Thank you, he said, for saving me. Emma smiled through her tears. Thank you for answering the wrong number. She walked out of the prison and into the bright afternoon sun, where Jake was waiting in the car with Sophia. Her daughter waved excitedly from her car seat, and Emma waved back. It wasn't the life she had planned, but it was the life she had chosen. And for the first time in 3 years, Emma Rodriguez felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Asterisk. Don't forget to Lee if this story gave you all the feels. Subscribe for more emotional stories. Comment your thoughts. Did Daniel make the right choice? Share with someone who loves intense romance. The end.